Hey guys, this is Matthew. Um, I wanted to do basically a fast tutorial kind of illustrating the power of InDesign with a simple example that I have in front of me or a project. Essentially, what I wanted to do, I have this old textbook regarding 3D design, and I've just for the record, I've asked all of my students to purchase this textbook used on eBay or Amazon or whatever. But I also want my students to have a backup PDF copy of this textbook. And so what I did was here's the folder right here. What I did was I went in and I photographed a lot of these pages. Okay. And it's pretty good quality, confirming everything is in focus. Um, so I photographed all of these pages and I organized them according to chapter 1 through 10. And so I want to compile a real nice kind of PDF using Adobe InDesign, or a series of PDFs using Adobe InDesign. But I thought this was a great opportunity to kind of illustrate really kind of what InDesign does, as far as, you create this document, it lives within a folder, and then that document is connected to all of these assets that are in the nearby or associated folder. Okay. And so you can imagine that this is a really powerful application, Adobe InDesign, for example, if you're making a publication like a magazine or a book, because in this case, the assets that I have, they're just these photographs of the book that I've taken with my iPhone. But oftentimes when you're making a magazine, you're getting photographs from a photographer, you're getting graphics from a graphic designer. Um, you're getting all of these things from all of these multiple places, and you organize them in these folders, and then you can essentially composite or bring these things together using Adobe InDesign. And although this is a very kind of simple, straightforward example of Adobe InDesign, I think it's very telling and illustrative, or instructional. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. So I've opened up Adobe InDesign, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. And remember, I'm going to emphasize this quite a bit with everyone. It's extremely important that that you have a file folder or a project folder, and all of your assets are within reach or can be linked from the InDesign document that we're about to create and place or save right here. Um, if those things end up being deleted, or if they go missing because some of the documents are on your desktop, some of the other documents are in your documents folder, maybe some of those documents are in a Google Drive folder up in the cloud, it's going to cause a lot of issues with this application, because Adobe InDesign is reliant on being able to make those connections to your assets, or the things that you're essentially planting within the document. Okay. So I've got all of my assets set up and organized really nicely, and I think we're ready to go. And the next thing I'm going to do is, like I mentioned, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it 3D. Okay. And over here under units, I'm going to go to inches, and I want it to be 8.5 inches wide and 11 inches high. And I do not want the pages to be facing. I just want things to be linear instead of, like, looking like a book as far as the PDF. Okay. Okay. And I don't need to worry about columns or any of this other stuff, but you can imagine, you can create a variety of publications with Adobe InDesign. You can create 3-column brochures. You can create just a simple 8.5 by 11 ad layout for a magazine. And it's for the publication world. It's a compositing application. So now I'm going to hit create. And now I've got Adobe InDesign open. One of the things I like to do is I like to go to Essentials Classic. and then I'll reset Essentials Classic so everything looks the way I want it to look. Okay. And then just a quick tour. This may look familiar to folks that have used maybe Adobe Illustrator before because there's a black arrow tool, a selection tool. There's a white arrow tool or a direct selection tool. There's a text tool. There's a pen tool. There's a shape building or rectangle tool. So a lot of the stuff like the hand tool, the eyedropper tool. So if you know Adobe Illustrator or if you've used it before, you're actually going to, yeah, things are going to look familiar, which is good. What you may not have or what you may have not seen before is that there's now a section for pages, which is pretty cool. And then we can create additional pages with this little plus button here. Um, there's also the layers palette, which is essential for any Adobe application, whether it's Illustrator, Photoshop, or InDesign, or any of these other applications. Layers are big. There's also this handy links palette that is nearby because remember, Adobe InDesign is highly reliant on links and things linking up, quote unquote. And so here you can go back in and maybe repair some of those links that have gone wrong or broken through process. Okay, so it's pretty simple. At this point, I have the first page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to File, and then I'm going to go to Place, and notice how the shortcut is Command D on a Mac. So Place, and then this dialog box is going to pop up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to my teaching portfolio, where I have a folder called Books, and then there's a 3D design folder. And then here you can kind of see, here is the folder in the Finder window, and here I am kind of navigating to that folder um, with this dialog box. And so chapters 1 through 10 are there. And I'm going to start with so here's the first page. And I've gone in just to avoid confusion. I've learned this, that, this can be useful for this particular project where I'm trying to recreate a book or a chapter with some clear pages so I know where to end and begin. So 236 is essentially the first page in this textbook. And I can just kind of take this asset. I want there to be some padding, but I can also grab these handles and kind of stretch things out so I can go all the way to the border. The other thing that's really handy in Adobe InDesign is you can drag with the black arrow tool, select the asset or object, then come up here to Object and scroll down to Fitting, and then say Fit Content Proportionally, okay? And then that'll kind of blow things up as large as you can. All right, so here's something else that I think is handy. Instead of redoing that step and all, going up to Object and I don't know, I have an easier way to do this where I'll get everything the way that I want it because I have a consistent, folder of assets and they're all the same size. Now I'm going to just simply Command C or copy, and I'm going to copy that onto a new page here, okay? And it may seem silly because it's exactly the same, and that's kind of what I want actually. And so I'm just trying to guesstimate how many pages I need. So let's see, actually, I would say I need, we can do the math here, roughly 236 to 344, so about 120 pages, roughly. Okay, so I hope this isn't absolutely insane, but I'm gonna click this plus sign quite a few times here and create 120 pages real fast. My mouse going, right? Okay, so I might have to delete or add some pages But anyway, that's a good start. And so now I also, again, I want to copy, and then I can kind of go down through if I have the pages palette selected, I can double click on a page and then just hit Command V. Double click on a page, then just hit Command V, etc., etc. And right now, also, I just want to point out that this blue link indicates that the file is connecting properly. And so InDesign, yes, can find the file. In fact, if we come over here to links, we can see here it is, that same file linking up on many different circumstances on these different pages. So we just have to continue um, planting this page. And notice, I think this is a nice system because notice how it kind of plants itself consistently in the frame of these corresponding or additional pages. So in other words, I don't have to go in and sort of um, tune, how these things are fitting. I can just kind of double click, Command V, double click, Command V, double click, Command V, blah, blah, blah. So now I need to start going in, I double click to go back to page 2, and then I'm going to select, and then all I have to do is hit Command D again, and it's going to navigate me to the previous folder where I was, and I just click the next page, so 237, 238, 239. And notice how it just kind of plants the image in there real nicely. 240. Whoops. Make sure that the object is selected. So now I've got to go back 240. 241. 242. 243. 244. 245. And 246. That's the last page for that particular chapter. And it's only 11 pages. So now what I'm going to do, and look, we have all these pages, and I'm not going to go through this entire process because it could be a little bit boring and tedious. One thing that I think it's important, that is important to do right now, is to hit Command S and save. Okay. And now we're going to go back to my teaching folder, go to books, 3D. I've named this 3D and I want it to be nearby, so I'm going to plant it within that folder. Now, if you look over here, you can see there's that file right there. And so that file can talk to all of these different assets that I'll be planting into the InDesign file, okay? So, but I also want to show you how to export. So this is page 1, okay? And we're going to be going all the way down to page 11 for chapter 1. So File, Export, and I'm going to call this 3D-1. I want it to be a PDF print, although look at all these options here that you can send out a JPEG, a PNG, a variety of different Adobe PDFs. You can even export HTML. A lot of options, but Adobe PDF print seems to be the one that I export often. Okay, so PDF print. Now hit save, and this dialog box is going to pop up, and you can actually say over here, instead of saying all the pages, you can click range, and I want it to be 1 through 11. Okay. I'm also a little bit curious about compression. And so sometimes you can compress all of the assets. You can essentially, work with colored images, grayscale images, monochromatic images. You can tweak all of these parameters so that you can get the best export that you need. So for example, if you're trying to export something that's a little bit smaller in size, but still decent in resolution, sometimes you'll have to do multiple exports to sort of find the right, I guess, yeah, settings. So now I'm going to click export, and that's going to ask, okay, all right, that didn't take long actually. And so here's our PDF. Click on this PDF and I can see, things went okay. So pages 1 through 11. All right. And this will be handy for my students, the ones that maybe have difficulty purchasing the book at the beginning of the semester. That's really what happens. Sometimes folks are waiting for their financial aid to come through, but I don't want them to fall behind in the class. And that's why I do this sort of thing. And thank you all.